Now, over the past couple years, we have had a number of smartwatches hit the market from the likes of Pebble and Sony and Samsung. But now we have Android Wear, and this is coming straight from Google. And this is basically software that Google has designed to fit smartwatches. And it's going to be having the first two manufacturers come from Samsung and LG, with Motorola following right behind. And in this review, I'm going to be covering the software and also taking a look at the hardware of both of these watches and really see how Android Wear is going to be poised to take over the smartwatch market. Now, first, we're going to take a look at the hardware of the Samsung Gear Live and also the LG G Watch. Now, first up, the Samsung Gear Live takes some design characteristics from its older brother, the Samsung Galaxy Gear 2. It definitely is more fashionable than the G Watch. Has a little bit more flair to it. It has the metal going around the watch face and also on the tip of the band itself. And where the G Watch is more of a subtle watch. It doesn't really scream smartwatch. So if you are wearing it, it may be an option for you if you don't want to really wear something that looks like a little computer on your wrist. The G Watch is a good thing for that. And also the G Watch I would probably want to wear when I'm doing more active things like running and jumping or playing a sport, because I'm not so worried about it getting scratched up and damaged like I am with the Galaxy Gear Live. And when it comes to hardware specs, both of these watches have a few things in common. Both of them have a 1.2 gigahertz processor, 512 megabytes of RAM, 4 gigabytes of internal storage, an accelerometer, gyroscope, and a digital compass. Now, where they differ at is when it comes to the display. The Gear Live has a 1.63-inch Super AMOLED display, whereas the G Watch has a slightly bigger 1.65-inch display, but it is only an IPS LCD display, so the colors and the brightness aren't on the same level as it is with the Samsung Gear Live. Now, each of these watches have an always-on display, meaning that when you're not actively using the watch, talking to it or tapping on it, it'll go into this black and white mode. But when you do lift your wrist up to take a look at your watch, it should turn on automatically and go back into full color mode. Now, with the G Watch, I found that when I'm flicking my wrist up, it doesn't do it all the time. I really had a hard time, especially as you can see from trying to get it to do it in this review, where the Gear Live, basically every single time I lifted my wrist up, it turned on the display with no problem. Because of this always on display, battery life is definitely an issue. Both of these watches will get you a full days of use before you need to put it back on your charger. And because the G Watch has a slightly bigger 400 milliamp battery compared to the 300 milliamp battery in the Gear Live, when I went to sleep without charging both of these watches, I found that the G Watch I woke up to had about 20%, 20 to 25%, where the Gear Live was around 10 to 15%. So it makes a small difference, but this is definitely an issue that both manufacturers and really all manufacturers of Android Wear devices is going to have to tackle in the near future. Some other differences is that the Gear Live has a physical button on the right hand side and the G Watch has no button at all. So in order to turn on and off the device and access the settings and things like that, you're going to have to dive in through the software on the G Watch, where the Galaxy Gear just need to press and hold on to the button. Now also too, the Galaxy Gear has a heart rate monitor on the underside of this watch, so you can keep track of your heart rate in the software. So it's going to be good for people who need to do that for their health. And then lastly, neither one of these watches have any type of port, so you need to use the Cradle that came in the box in order to charge it. So you plug in your micro USB cable into the Cradle, and then you were set to go. But I like that the LG G Watch has a magnetic Cradle, so you don't really have to fiddle around trying to get that thing going every night. Where the Gear Live has a Cradle that you have to make sure is orientated right, and also to slot it in 2 different slots. So just a little bit more work than the G Watch, but still not too much of a hassle. All right, so let's go ahead and move on from the hardware and talk about the main star of the show, the software that's going to be powering both of these smartwatches, and that is Android Wear. And it's obvious that Google has been working a long time on this, and it definitely is showing. And Android Wear is basically based upon Google Now. If you use Google Now on the Android phone and also even iOS with the Google app, it basically has a card interface, and information like weather and sports and stock information, just things going on the web that you're interested in, will actually show up in their individual cards, and you can swipe them away and interact with them. And so Google has basically taken Google Now, added support for third-party apps, and shrunken it down to fit a watch display, and I'm really liking it so far. And basic navigation is simple. You either use your finger or use your voice, and use your fingers easy as just swiping left, right, up, and down. When you have a notification, it'll show up as a little tab at the bottom of the display, and so you simply swipe from the bottom to the top. Now we're here, that's corny, but you swipe from the bottom to the top, and now you're able to scroll through all your different notifications. Again, these will range from stock information, for flight information, for Facebook posts that you may get, and also weather. Once you land on a notification that you want to see more about, you simply just tap on it, or you can just swipe over from the right to the left to see more information about it. So if I land on the weather app, it shows me the weather for today, but if I want to see the weather for the next 4 days, I can swipe over and it'll give me more of that information. Or if it's in the email, I can look look at that email and choose to archive it, or I can actually respond to it using my voice. And the same thing goes for text messages and really almost any other chat type of function. And I actually just mentioned the main part of Android Wear that really sets it apart from any other smartwatch software that's on the market right now, and that is the voice recognition. I mean, it is awesome. And so from any screen, you simply say, "Okay, Google," and it'll start listening for your voice commands. Okay, Google. Who was the 15th President of the United States? When is the next time the St. Louis Cardinals play? Remind me to wake up at 6 o'clock tomorrow. As you can see, it's pretty accurate, and you don't have to have it up to your mouth like you're a Secret Service or something. I usually have it between my belly button and my middle of my chest, if that makes sense, and is able to listen to me, and again, is able to clearly understand what I'm saying. And I love how it displays what you're saying on the screen itself, and it just feels like you're just talking to another person. As I showed you, there's a number of things you can do. You can use it to set an alarm on your phone to wake you up tomorrow, set a reminder, or jot down a note. Also, too, if you're using it with the Gear Live, you can have it take your heart rate just by talking to it in just a couple presses after that. And so more than anything else with Android Wear, I think the voice recognition is the #1 executed thing with this software that really, again, is going to set it apart from anything else. And so Google has made it clear that you're not going to see any skinned version of Android Wear like you find on cell phones. So you're not going to see TouchWiz or HTC Sense on Android Wear, which I think is a good thing. But the manufacturers of these watches are able to add their custom watch faces to them. And so as I scroll through them on both watches, I found that the G2 does have some extra watch faces in there, which are pretty good compared to the Gear Live, using mostly just the standard watch faces that come with Android Wear. Now, some other things I like to do with Android Wear include ordering food for my watch. Yes, you can order food using the Eat24 app, and it basically will show you your past orders and allow you to do just a couple swipes and pay with your Google Wallet, and it'll be delivered straight to you. And then also, too, if you want to navigate with your watch, you can. So basically, you can talk to it and get navigation to a certain destination, and instead of having to keep your phone out, you can just keep checking your watch, or it'll vibrate when you need to make a turn. And then lastly, Philips has made their huge lineup of LED Wi-Fi connected light bulbs compatible with Android Wear. So now just by using your watch, you can change the colors of these light bulbs and also adjust the brightness. And then when it's time to get in the mood, you can simply turn off all the lights just by tapping on instead of clapping on. And so Google's off to a really good start with Android Wear. They have a really nice solid foundation, and I can't wait to see what other third-party apps start to come and do with the Android Wear software. And also too, I think that they have really good manufacturer support with LG, Motorola, and Samsung already on board making watches and probably working on their next versions of the watches right now as we speak. Now, with the Gear Live and the G Watch hardware-wise, if I had to pick one of these watches to actually choose to use on a daily basis, I would probably go with the Gear Live because it has that better display, the heart rate monitor. Then also too, it's $30 cheaper than the G Watch. The G Watch costs $229, where the Gear Live comes in at $199, and that's kind of makes me scratch my head because the Gear Live definitely has better hardware in the whole, and material-wise, it's definitely a better watch than the G Watch. So I'm kind of curious why LG priced it at that. And so if you're kind of on the fence about Android Wear and these two smartwatches, we do have the Moto 360 right around the corner, which is going to have pretty much the same software besides different watch faces. But design-wise, just the build quality looks to be an amazing watch, not just for smartwatches, but all watches in general. So stay tuned for more coverage on that. But ultimately, guys, I'm liking Android Wear so far. If I'm going to wear a watch, I'm going to wear the best smartwatch that I can get right now. And so I think an Android Wear smartwatch is definitely fitting that bill. But leave your comment down below, guys. What do you think about Android Wear and both of these watches? Which ones do you own? Let me know what you think about these watches down below. And thanks for watching this video, guys, and I will catch you later. Peace.